A single warship that can dominate entire civilizations. For centuries, war was fought with fleets. Empires sent thousands of ships to battle. Armies of millions clashed in the name of power, survival, and conquest. But then, everything changed. Because
one day a single warship appeared, a vessel so advanced, so unstoppable, that it defied all logic. It did not belong to any known empire. It did not answer to any leader. It never sent demands. It never made threats. It simply arrived. And entire civilizations vanished. The warship that shouldn't exist. The first reports came from the outskirts of the galaxy. A mining station detected a massive energy surge, unlike anything seen before. Then, radio silence. No distress calls. No survivors. Nothing. When ships were sent to investigate, the station was gone. Not destroyed, not abandoned, just gone. As if it had never existed. Rumors of the ghost ship whispers spread across the galaxy. Stories of a phantom warship that moved without sound, without warning. Some said it was a lost superweapon from an ancient empire. Others believed it was not a ship at all, but something alive, a machine with a mind of its own. One thing was certain. Whenever it appeared, a world disappeared. The galaxy in fear. Soon entire civilizations began to panic. Fleets were deployed. Scouts were sent to track the warship. Every military power in the galaxy tried to find it, but the warship did not want to be found. Until one day, it revealed itself. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy was on edge. Entire civilizations had vanished without a trace. And then, for the first time, someone saw it. The warship. A lone trader's vessel, traveling through the edges of the Vargas Nebula, detected an object larger than any known ship. It wasn't broadcasting signals. It wasn't moving aggressively. It was just there. A silent colossus, drifting in space as if it had been waiting. The unnatural presence. The trader, a veteran pilot, had seen everything. Pirate battles. Fleet, skirmishes, even the destruction of entire planets. But this was something else. His ship's scanners couldn't penetrate its hull. Every sensor reading failed. It was as if the warship wasn't really there, like it existed between reality and something else. And then, the trader's navigation systems shut down. His engines froze, his ship was trapped, and for the first time in his life, he felt true terror. The message that shouldn't exist. As he drifted helplessly, something happened. A message appeared on his screen. Not in any known language, not from any familiar source. It was a sequence of symbols and numbers, and before he could respond, his ship was released. His systems came back online, and the warship, it was gone. Vanished in an instant as if it had never been there at all. The galaxy's reaction, the trader's story spread like wildfire. Some called him a liar, others called him a fool. But then, it happened again. A military fleet sent to investigate disappeared completely. A space station vanished overnight. Entire planets stopped responding to calls. Something was out there, something unstoppable, and for the first time, the most powerful empires in the galaxy felt fear. The hunt begins. The galaxy couldn't ignore it anymore. The greatest military alliances united. A fleet of 10,000 ships was formed. Their mission? Find the warship. Track it. Destroy it. Before, it was too late. But none of them knew the truth. None of them understood what they were really hunting. Because this wasn't just a warship. It was something more. And it had been waiting for this exact moment. The fall of the Zifron Empire. The Zifron Empire was the strongest civilization in the galaxy. For centuries they had ruled with an iron fist. No species challenged them. No army could match them. Their fleets stretched across the stars. Their armies conquered entire worlds. They were untouchable, unstoppable. And when they heard of the mysterious warship, they did not feel fear. They felt amusement. They thought it was just another rumor, another myth told by cowards. They sent their fleet, a fleet of 50,000 warships, enough firepower to wipe out a solar system. Their mission? To find this phantom warship and destroy it. The confrontation. For weeks the Zifran fleet searched. They scouted uncharted space. They deployed drones, probes, and spy satellites. And then, they found it. The warship. Drifting alone near the remains of a dead star. Not moving. Not hiding. Simply waiting. As if it had known they were coming. The attack begins. The Zifran admiral laughed. This is what the galaxy fears. A single ship? He gave the order. 1,000 warships moved in. Every weapon locked on. Every cannon primed to fire. And then, the warship moved. The first strike, no thrusters. No visible propulsion. It simply appeared in the middle of the Zifran fleet. 1 second it was far away. The next, it was everywhere. And then, it fired. A single pulse of energy. Not an explosion, not a beam, just a wave of light. And in an instant, 10,000 Zifran ships ceased to exist. No debris, no wreckage, just gone. The battle that wasn't a battle panic spread through the Zifran fleet. They fired everything. Missiles, plasma cannons, antimatter warheads, every weapon known to science. And the warship, it didn't dodge. It didn't block. It simply let the weapons hit. And nothing happened. Every attack vanished before impact, as if the warship was untouchable. The desperation of the Zifran's admirals screamed orders. Ships turned to retreat. But the warship was faster. It hunted them without mercy. Every time a ship tried to jump to hyperspace, it was erased. Every time they tried to communicate, their signals were cut off. The Zifran fleet wasn't fighting a war. It was being executed. And then in less than 1 hour, the Zifran fleet was gone. 1,000 warships, wiped from existence. The death of an empire. The Zifran homeworld waited for their fleet to return. They sent signals. They received no answer. Then the warship arrived. It did not land. It did not attack. It simply hovered above the capital city. And then, it spoke. A single transmission broadcast to every Zifran citizen, a voice that was not human, not alien, something else. It said only one thing. You are unworthy. And then, the planet's core collapsed. Not a weapon. Not an explosion. The planet simply folded in on itself as if it had never existed. The Zifran Empire was gone. The galaxy reacts. News of the Zifran massacre spread. Entire civilizations went silent. The strongest empire in history had been erased by a single warship. There was no explanation, no warning, just destruction. The galaxy had never seen anything like it, and now they had a choice. Would they try to fight the warship, or would they bow before it? One thing was certain. This was no ordinary war. This was something else, and the warship wasn't finished. Not yet. The Zifran Empire was gone, an entire civilization erased in a single battle, and yet, the warship remained untouched, untested, as if the destruction of 50,000 warships and an entire planet was nothing more than a casual demonstration. The galaxy watched in horror. The warship had no flag, no allegiance, no demands. It simply existed, and whenever it appeared, something disappeared. The hunt for answers. Every scientist, engineer, and military strategist in the galaxy asked the same question. What is this ship? Where did it come from? Who or what built it? And most importantly, how can we stop it? But there was no answer, because the warship did not obey the laws of physics. It was something beyond science, something beyond time itself. The impossible materials. After the fall of the Ziphrons, a few survivors managed to recover a fragment of wreckage not from the warship itself, but from a ship that had been erased. The fragment was analyzed in the most advanced research labs, and the results were impossible. The metal was not found on any known periodic table. Its molecular structure was in a constant state of flux, changing, shifting, adapting. It absorbed energy instead of reflecting it. It was as if the warship's armor wasn't just a material. It was alive. The non-existent energy signature. Another anomaly. The warship did not produce any detectable energy signature. It had no reactor, no fuel source, no trace of radiation. It wasn't using hyperspace drives. It wasn't using propulsion systems. It simply moved, as if it was bending space itself to travel. It did not jump to light speed. It did not accelerate. It was there one moment, and gone the next, as if it wasn't bound by the same reality. A ship that repairs itself. More reports surfaced. A small fleet had managed to land a hit, a single lucky shot. They had damaged the warship. A gaping hole was torn into its side. For a moment they thought they had won. Then, before their eyes, the ship healed itself, the hole closed, the armor restored, as if nothing had ever happened. That was the moment the galaxy truly understood. This was no warship. It was something else, something that shouldn't exist. Theories and desperate questions. Speculation ran wild. Some believed it was a relic from a long-lost empire. Others thought it was a god machine, built by an ancient race to bring judgment upon the stars. And then, a chilling discovery was made, one that changed everything. A long-range probe detected a distress beacon, a signal that had been broadcast for over 100,000 years. The beacon contained one message, one sentence, written in an unknown language. Once translated, it said, "We tried to destroy it. We failed." The beacon had been sent from a dead world, a planet that had been turned to dust, a civilization that no longer existed, and that meant one thing. This warship was not new. It had been here long before any of us. And whatever built it, they were already gone. The realization. The warship wasn't a conqueror. It wasn't a tool of war. It was something worse, a force of nature. Something that had outlived entire galaxies. Something that had seen the rise and fall of empires older than time itself, and now it was awake again, and no one knew why or what it was waiting for. The galaxy's desperation. The strongest minds in the universe gathered. Their one goal: find a way to stop the warship. The most advanced weapons were developed. Entire civilizations combined their knowledge to find a weakness. A task force of the most powerful war fleets was assembled, a coalition of 100,000 ships. More firepower than had ever been used in any war. Their mission? Destroy the warship before it was too late, but deep down they all knew the truth. If a civilization older than 100,000 years had failed, what chance did they have? And yet, they had to try. Because if they failed, the galaxy itself might be next. The warship had become the greatest threat in the history of the galaxy. It had erased the Zifrin Empire in a single battle. It was built with technology beyond time, and now it was disappearing and reappearing at random, leaving nothing but destruction in its wake. The galaxy had no choice. It was no longer about who ruled. It was no longer about power. It was about survival. And so, the greatest fleet ever assembled was formed. Their mission: hunt the warship, track it, destroy it, before it was too late. The fleet that could end worlds. They called it the Judicator Armada. 100,000 warships. Over 50 different civilizations working together. Weapons capable of shattering planets. This was more than an army. This was the last hope for the galaxy. And they weren't hunting an empire. They were hunting one ship, one warship, that defied everything. The search begins. The warship had no pattern. It did not follow trade routes. It did not conquer planets. It simply appeared, and entire worlds vanished. The Armada set out across the stars, using the most advanced tracking systems ever built. They deployed millions of drones. They used quantum probability models to predict its next move. They even searched the deepest corners of the void, but nothing. It was as if the warship wasn't just hiding. It was choosing when to be found. The trap is set after months of searching. The Armada made a decision. If they couldn't find the warship, they would force it to come to them. A trap was set near the Helios Rift, a massive asteroid field where hyperspace travel was unstable. They broadcasted a fake distress signal, an artificial planet-killing event, a message that would force the warship to intervene. Because for some reason the warship didn't just attack at random. It only appeared when entire civilizations were at risk. That was the key. If it thought another empire was about to fall, it would come, and when it did, the entire Judicator Armada would be waiting. The warship arrives for 3 weeks. Nothing happened. Doubt started to spread. Maybe the warship wasn't watching. Maybe it didn't care. Maybe it wasn't coming. Then, without warning, it appeared. One moment the asteroid field was empty. The next, the warship was there. Massive, silent, a colossus of pure darkness, hovering like a god above the battlefield. No engines, no weapons visible. But the Armada did not hesitate. 1,000 warships opened fire. A storm of plasma, antimatter, railgun slugs, and energy pulses rained down on the warship. The might of the entire galaxy unleashed in one single strike. And then, the impossible happened. The battle that wasn't a battle. The warship did not move. It did not fire back. It simply let the attack hit, and when the smoke cleared, it was still there, untouched, not a scratch, as if nothing had happened. And then it responded with a single pulse of light. No explosions, no firepower, just light. And suddenly, half the fleet was gone. 1,000 warships erased from existence, not destroyed, not crippled, just gone. The Armada falls apart. Panic spread through the fleet. Admirals screamed orders. Commanders tried to retreat. Ships jumped into hyperspace, only to reappear in the same place, trapped. The warship wasn't just a weapon. It was rewriting reality itself. And then, it finally moved. It blinked across the battlefield, appearing inside the center of the fleet. One by one, ships vanished. Every maneuver the fleet attempted, the warship had already predicted it. Every strategy countered before it even began. And then, in less than 30 minutes, the greatest fleet in history was no more. 100,000 ships gone. Only a few survivors remained to tell the story, and as the last escape pod drifted away, its crew heard a message from the warship itself, a voice not human, not alien, something else. It simply said, "Stop searching for me. You do not understand what I am. You do not understand what I am protecting you from." And then, the warship vanished, like a ghost into the void, and the survivors were left with one terrifying thought. What if the warship wasn't the real enemy? What if it was fighting something even worse? The galaxy was in shock. The most powerful fleet in history, 100,000 warships, had been erased. The greatest admirals, tacticians, and weapons had failed. And the warship, it was still out there, waiting, watching, and now it had spoken. "You do not understand what I am. You do not understand what I am protecting you from." For the first time, the galaxy asked itself, was this ship not our enemy, if it was protecting us? Then from what? And more importantly, who or what built it? A forgotten signal from the void as the galaxy searched for answers. A breakthrough came from an unexpected place. An ancient satellite, orbiting a dead star at the edge of the universe, suddenly activated. The satellite had been offline for over 200,000 years. No known civilization had built it. It was older than the oldest records in existence, and yet it was broadcasting a signal, a distress signal, a message that had been playing on repeat for millennia. Translated, it said, "If you are hearing this, it is already too late. They are coming. We could not stop them, but we built something that could. One ship, one weapon, one final chance to survive." The truth about the warship. The message was clear. The warship had not been built for conquest. It was not a rogue weapon from some forgotten empire. It was a defense mechanism, a last-ditch effort by an extinct race to stop something far worse. A warship designed not to rule, but to stand guard. It had not been attacking at random. It had been eliminating threats before they could grow too powerful, because something was coming, and the warship was the only thing standing in its way. The distant horror, the galaxy's most advanced telescopes picked up something terrifying. Beyond the furthest edges of known space, there was a void, a place where entire star systems had vanished, not destroyed, not conquered, simply erased. No life. No planets, no wreckage, as if those stars had never existed, and this void was moving. Slowly, unstoppable, coming closer, and if the pattern held, it would reach the galaxy within the next 500 years. The final warning. The warship had never been the enemy. It had never been a threat. It had been holding the line. For centuries, it had been preventing civilizations from becoming too powerful, not out of malice but out of necessity. Because the real enemy, the force behind the void, could not be allowed to find us. The warship's attacks had always been targeted. It only eliminated empires that grew too large, because large civilizations sent powerful signals into space, signals that the void might detect. Signals that could doom us all. And now, by hunting the warship, by gathering the largest fleet in history, the galaxy had made the biggest mistake possible. They had made themselves known, and the warship's final words made sense. "You do not understand what I am protecting you from." Because the warship was not fighting the galaxy. It was fighting to keep the void away. And now, the void knew we were here. The warship's warning had been ignored. The galaxy had spent centuries fearing it, hunting it, trying to destroy it, and in doing so, we had doomed ourselves. Because now, the void knew we existed, and it was coming, faster than anyone had predicted. The arrival of the unknown, it started at the outer edges of the galaxy. Entire star systems blinked out of existence, not destroyed, not conquered, just gone. Every telescope, every long-range sensor station watched in horror as the darkness spread. There was no fleet, no armies, no warnings, just a wall of nothingness, swallowing everything in its path. And the warship? It had vanished. It was no longer attacking civilizations, no longer hunting fleets. It had gone silent. Because now, it had bigger concerns. The Galactic Coalition. For the first time in history, the galaxy was united. The most powerful empires, the most advanced species, all came together. Enemies became allies. Rivals became brothers. Because survival was the only thing that mattered now, they pooled their knowledge. Every weapon, every defense system, every secret technology ever developed. It was the greatest military force in history, a fleet of over 1 million warships, built for one final battle. The warship returns as the galactic fleet prepared. Something unexpected happened. The warship reappeared, not as an enemy, not as a conqueror, but as a commander. It transmitted a final message to the leaders of the galaxy. You wanted to understand me. Now you will. Follow my lead, or you will not survive. And with that, the warship moved toward the void, and the fleet followed. Because for the first time, the warship was not hunting them. It was leading them into a war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The first contact with the void. The fleet arrived at the edge of the darkness. They expected an enemy fleet, a vast armada of ships, something to fight. Instead, they found nothing, no movement, no sound, just a wall of absolute blackness, stretching across the stars. It wasn't just absence of light. It was the absence of everything, as if the universe itself ended beyond that point. Then the warship spoke again. Do not fire. Do not move. Do not let it see you. But one ship in the fleet panicked. A pilot, overwhelmed by terror, fired a single shot into the void, a blast of plasma meant to probe the darkness. And then, the void answered. The horror unleashed. Darkness rippled, shifted, moved. Something came out of it. Not ships, not machines, something else. Something that did not belong in this universe. It had no shape, no form. It was alive, and yet not. It was intelligent and yet incomprehensible, and it moved straight for the fleet. In an instant, entire squadrons disintegrated, not destroyed, not even vaporized, simply erased, as if they had never existed. And then, the warship acted. The warship's true power. For the first time in recorded history, the warship unleashed its full strength. It moved faster than light, blinking across the battlefield. It fired weapons that had no explanation, beams of light that ripped apart the fabric of space, waves of energy that distorted reality itself. The warship was not just advanced, it was fighting with technology that should not exist, and yet even with its power, the void kept coming, the desperate stand. The galactic fleet fought with everything it had. They unleashed their most powerful weapons. They detonated entire suns, trying to slow the advance. But nothing stopped it. Nothing even hurt it. For every ship that fired, another was erased. For every fleet that engaged, another was lost. The galaxy was losing, and they all knew it. Then, The warship made its final move, the ultimate sacrifice. The warship transmitted one last command. Leave. Now. The fleet hesitated. They had come to fight. But the warship had already made its decision. It charged straight into the heart of the void. Its weapons fired one last time. And then, it was gone. The warship, the only thing standing between the void and the galaxy, had vanished. The aftermath, the fleet escaped. The galaxy survived, for now. But the void was still out there, still moving, still hungry, and without the warship, there was nothing left to stop it. The galaxy had thought the warship was a legend, a monster, a ghost. But in reality, it had been their only shield, and now that shield was gone and all that remained was the darkness. The warship was gone. The only force in the galaxy that had held the void at bay had sacrificed itself. And now, the greatest civilization in history was left with one terrifying reality. They were alone. No warship to protect them. No warning to guide them. No second chance to escape. The void had seen them, and now it was coming. The galaxy's desperation panic spread across the surviving fleets. Some wanted to flee to the farthest reaches of space. Some wanted to fight until the last ship was destroyed, and some simply gave up, because deep down they all knew the truth. There was no winning this war, not against an enemy that could erase existence itself, not against something beyond time, beyond reality. The warship had been their only hope, and now it was gone. The warship's final message then, in the silence of deep space, a transmission was received, encoded in quantum signals impossible to detect by normal means. A message that had been left before the warship's final act. It said, "Do not despair. You are not alone. You were never alone. Find the key. Find the origin. The answer is waiting." And then, one final set of coordinates, the search for the origin. The remaining leaders of the galaxy gathered. What was the key? What was the origin? What was the warship trying to tell them? There was only one way to find out. They had to follow the coordinates, but there was a problem. The location was impossible. It wasn't a planet. It wasn't a star system. It wasn't even a place that should exist. The coordinates pointed to the center of the void itself, the place where nothing should be. And yet, they had no choice. If there was any hope left, it was waiting there. The journey into darkness, the last remaining warships, the best pilots, the greatest minds, prepared for the most dangerous journey ever attempted. A mission to enter the void. To go where no one had ever returned from. To uncover the truth behind the warship and find whatever secret it had left behind. This wasn't just a mission. It was the last hope for the galaxy, because if they failed, there would be nothing left to save. The last fleet carrying the best pilots, warriors, and scientists in the galaxy prepared for their final mission. They had no guarantees, no certainty they would survive, only the warship's final message. Find the key, find the origin, and the impossible coordinates leading straight into the void. This was the end game, the last chance to save the galaxy. And so, they jumped, straight into the unknown. The descent into the void. The moment they entered the void, everything changed. The stars vanished. The universe disappeared. They were in a place that was not space, not a dimension, not reality. It was nothingness, and yet, something was there, watching, waiting. Something ancient, something impossible. The discovery of the lost world. Then, without warning, The fleet stopped moving. Not by their own will, not by their engines, but by something else. And before them, appearing out of the darkness, a planet, but not just any planet. A world lost to time. A world that should not exist. The atmosphere was thick with energy. The ruins of a once great civilization stretched for miles. And in the center of it all, a colossal structure. A monument, older than the stars. And inside, the truth about the warship. The warship's true purpose. They found records written in an unknown language. But as they watched, the letters shifted, changed. Becoming readable, a single message carved into the walls. This is where it began. This is where the last war was fought. This is where the warship was created. We were the first. We were the last. And now, the war is yours. The warship had not been a weapon of conquest. It had been a guardian, a lone sentinel, left behind to protect the galaxy from a force beyond understanding. The force that had once destroyed its creators. And now, it was coming again. The sleeping army deep beneath the surface, hidden for millennia, they found something else. Not just records, not just ruins, an entire fleet. Warships, thousands of them, lined in perfect formation. Dormant. Waiting. Each ship bearing the same design as the one that had fought alone for so long. And suddenly the warship's final message made sense. Find the key. This was the key. A fleet never activated, a force never awakened. The warship had been a single soldier, fighting an unwinnable war, but it had not been the last. It had simply been waiting for someone to take its place. The final choice, the last fleet, had a decision to make. They could leave. Run, try to survive as long as possible, or they could awaken the fleet, take up the warship's mission, prepare for the greatest battle in history, and ensure that when the void came for the galaxy, it wouldn't find helpless victims, it would find an army. The truth had been revealed. The warship had been fighting alone for countless millennia. But now, it wasn't alone anymore. Beneath the surface of the lost world lay an entire fleet of warships, dormant, waiting. And now, the last surviving civilizations of the galaxy faced one final choice: run or fight. The awakening of the fleet. The scientists worked day and night to understand the warships, their systems, their weapons, their true purpose. And as the first ship powered up, the fleet received a message, not in words, not in sound, but in thought. A transmission that filled their minds like an ancient memory. We are the last defense. We are the final wall between existence and oblivion. Take the command, or let the void consume you. They had no choice. One by one, the warships awakened. And for the first time in history, the galaxy had an army built for war against the void. The invasion begins. It started at the edge of the galaxy. The void had grown impatient. Entire star systems were being erased in hours, not centuries. The darkness was consuming everything, and it was coming faster than predicted. The galaxy had days before it reached the core worlds. There was no time left. The warships had to launch now, or everything would be lost. The battle for existence, the largest fleet in history, met the void in deep space. Not a battle between empires, not a war between species. This was a fight for the survival of reality itself, and the enemy was unlike anything the galaxy had ever faced. No ships, no soldiers, just shifting darkness. A force that could bend time, rewrite existence, erase entire planets with a thought. And the moment the battle began, the galaxy realized the truth. This was not a war. This was a storm, and they were standing in its path. The warships unleash hell. The first fleet of warships engaged. Their weapons, beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen, fired into the darkness. But the void did not flinch. It swallowed the attacks like light being absorbed into a black hole. It retaliated with waves of nothingness. Entire warships vanished in seconds. It was too powerful, too vast, too unstoppable. And then, something changed. The flagship, the first warship that had fought alone for so long, reappeared. It hadn't been destroyed. It had been waiting for the moment when the galaxy finally stood beside it. And now, it was ready. The final weapon. The flagship moved faster than light, weaving through the battle like a ghost. It fired weapons that didn't just attack the void. They tore through dimensions, ripped apart time itself. The void screamed. For the first time it felt pain, and that meant one thing. It could be destroyed, but not by conventional weapons, not by warships or fleets. The void was beyond energy, matter, and existence itself. There was only one way to stop it, and the flagship knew what had to be done. The last sacrifice. The warships formed a final attack line, a path straight into the core of the void. But someone had to lead the charge. Someone had to go in first, and the flagship volunteered. It sent one final message to the fleet. You were never meant to fight this alone. Now let me finish what I started. Then, with a final burst of power, the flagship charged into the darkness, straight into the heart of the void. And when it reached the center, it detonated. A blast so powerful, it didn't just destroy matter, it rewrote existence. The void collapsed. Reality snapped back into place. The war was over, and the warship, the lone guardian of the galaxy for thousands of years, was gone. But it had won, and the galaxy was still here. The new age, the survivors returned to their worlds, but they were no longer the same. They had seen what lay beyond the stars. They had faced something older than time, and they had survived. The warship's fleet remained, silent, waiting, ready, not to conquer, not to destroy, but to stand watch, because if the void ever returned, they would be ready. Humanity, aliens, all civilizations together. For the first time, they were united, not by fear, not by war, but by the legacy of a single warship that had stood alone against the darkness, and in its honor, they built a monument. Warning. A promise. One sentence, written in the languages of every species that had survived. We do not kneel. We do not surrender. We fight. And beneath that, a single name. The Guardian. The warship that had saved existence itself.